Okay.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear on this end.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. I'll remind everyone to please keep your microphone on mute throughout the presentation. If you have questions, you can enter it on the chat box, and we'll monitor that as we go. This is the Construction and Engineers Industry Outreach event for the runway reconstruction, runway 826 reconstruction at Rafael Hernandez International Airport in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. I am Jim Kirschbaum with Burns & McDonnell. I will be presenting today along with Mauricio Pizarro. I would like to introduce the Deputy Director of the PRPA of the Puerto Rico Ports Authority. The director was unable to be here today, so we have the Assistant Director, Christian Trinidad, for a brief welcome.
Good afternoon, friends. On behalf of the Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Ports Authority, our employees, and our stakeholders, welcome to the BQN Runway Project Industry Outreach event. First, we want to thank you for participating in this process. Please know that the Puerto Rico Ports Authority encourages competition, and we hope to receive participation from the most qualified firms of the nation and even internationally. Second, please know that the BQN Runway project is undisputedly on the top 10 projects of the government of Puerto Rico and its governor, the Honorable Pedro Pierluisi Urrutia. We are all very enthusiastic with this project. The BQN Airport is at the core of Puerto Rico's western region's economy. Initially, we evaluated the economic impact of closing the airport while repairs were being conducted, and it turned out to be disastrous. Therefore, in moving forward with this project, having the airport active while in construction was our main objective during this administration. Today, we are happy to say that we will proceed under those grounds. And finally, please know that the PRPA, the Puerto Rico Ports Authority, will align all of its departments and all of its employees in line with this project to assure the expedited internal processes, including payments and the execution of agreements to secure an effective internal management of this project. In short, rest assured that the government of Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rico Ports Authority are more than committed into having this project successfully completed for the benefit of both the owner and the contractor. So with those short words, I would like to give back the word to our consultants at Burns & McDonnell. And we again want to thank you for participating in this event.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Okay, with that, we'd like to continue our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the project location, scope of the project. We're going to talk a little bit about the construction materials and specifications that will be required. We'll discuss the procurement schedule, some information about doing business in Puerto Rico, some other projects in Puerto Rico for consideration along with this project. Questions, again, if you have questions, enter those in the chat box, or you will also be able to send, we'll give a location at the end of where you can send questions, and then we'll wrap up with some closing comments. The project location and scope. The project is located on the northwest end of Puerto Rico in Aguadilla. The project is at Aguadilla Rafael Hernandez International Airport. This used to be Ramey Air Force Base until the early 1970s, and then it was privatized into commercial use under the Puerto Rico Ports Authority. The current runway, the current airport has one runway. It's 200 feet wide by 11,700 feet long. It's also served by a partial parallel taxiway Alpha and a partial parallel taxiway Mike. The existing runway is in very poor condition. The pavement's in very poor condition and needs to be rehabilitated. But as the Deputy Director stated earlier, when they looked at the economic impact of shutting down the runway during the construction, it was catastrophic to the economy. So a new plan was developed over the past several years. And the new proposed plan is to construct a new 200 feet wide by 11,000 feet long runway, parallel to the existing runway, 500 feet offset. And then once the runway is completed, we will convert the existing runway to a taxiway. This was a document that was prepared as part of the environmental assessment. The light blue color, as you see in the legend, shows the proposed improvements as part of this project. The red and orange colors are pavements that will be removed currently as part of this project. And then the dark blue are proposed future improvements that are not currently part of this project. As part of this project, we will have some phasing and some enabling work that needs to take place. We are proposing that during the major part of the construction of the runway, that we will create a temporary non-airport operations area fencing so that most of the project can be constructed outside of the operation area. So we will not need badging or escorting in this area during construction. We also have some utility relocations that need to take place along the south side of the runway, as well as some demolition of some existing buildings, and some of those buildings will need to be coordinated with SHPO, which is the State Historic Preservation Office. And we do have a consultant. Puerto Rico Ports Authority does have a consultant that will help with that process. As we said earlier, the construction, this is an FAA-funded project, so all specifications and construction methods will have to meet FAA requirements. We've listed some of the major items here, from subbase up to P501 cement concrete pavement. But again, all items of construction and materials will have to meet FAA specifications. The current procurement schedule is shown above. It's going to be a two-step process. We will have an RFQ, request for qualifications, which will outline minimum qualifications that are going to be required both for the contractor, the prime engineering firm, superintendents, as well as the prime engineer. And then the second phase will be whoever meets the minimum qualifications will advance to the second phase for the proposal and the pricing. We've highlighted some key dates. Advertising for the RFQ right now is scheduled for mid-April. And then subsequent issue of the RFP to those firms meeting the minimum qualifications would be July 1st. And then ultimately, the plan right now is to have awards to the highest ranked or best qualified firm in November, 1st of November. The selection criteria, the RFQ will be posted at www.prpa.pr.gov. Right now, we're looking at overall team qualifications. So this would include primes as well as subcontractors. So the prime does not have to have all the experience. You can supplement with other firms on your team. We're looking for FAA or ICAO experience. Obviously, FAA is preferred, but we don't want to exclude firms or contractors who have done international work with ICAO. We will be looking for design build experience, runway experience within the past 10 years, minimum of 50 million. And then we're looking to have 2 other projects of experience. They could both be airfield, or we could have one that is airfield, minimum of 20 million, and one that is heavy concrete paving, minimum of 20 million. Again, we're looking also at the subcontractors' experience, so we'll be looking at local contractors as well and how you supplement your team. And we'll be looking at superintendent and design PM quals. All of that will be outlined in the RFQ. The funding and the budget, as we stated earlier, Deputy Director, this is a very important project to the government of Puerto Rico. This project will be funded by the government of Puerto Rico and the FAA. The funding for the FAA will be a multi-year allocation. The fiscal 2020 allocation of 24.2 million has been made, and the Puerto Rico funding has been secured in the amount of 30 million for all matching and contributing Puerto Rico funding. The estimated cost is between 100 and 120 million. Other requirements, there will be a DBE goal of a minimum of 10%. And then, as with any project, we will have insurance requirements, payment and performance bonds. And one unique item to doing business on a design build project in Puerto Rico is we will be requiring all teams to present a joint venture partnership between the prime contractor and the prime engineering firm. This will be a requirement basically to meet law number 173 and the institutional policies that were prepared by the College of Engineering and Land Surveyors in Puerto Rico. We will publish those documents for your viewing, but basically we will need, and the contract language will spell out the requirements for a joint venture to meet those laws and policies.
Okay, for doing business in Puerto Rico, all corporations must be registered at the Department of State of Puerto Rico. You can find further information on the link provided here in this PowerPoint. The engineer of record must be licensed in Puerto Rico, so if he is not, he can apply by reciprocity at the link provided. For local legal counseling, you can browse corporate lawyers and law firms in Puerto Rico, and there you will have a good listing. And for further useful information on Puerto Rico, you can go to discoverpuertorico.com. Slide.
Also, real quick, as far as being registered with the Department of State in Puerto Rico and being licensed, you don't have to be licensed until we actually sign the contract. So you don't have to be licensed at the time of the RFQ or the proposal, but only by the time that we get, if you're selected and when we get to the point where we sign the contract.
Why do business in Puerto Rico? Well, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. No passport is required for United States citizens when traveling to and from Puerto Rico and USA. Puerto Rico enjoys the state's constitutional, legal, financial, and regulatory protection. It's regulated under United States laws. Access points are protected by the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, and no passport is required for entry. That's simple.
So the other thing we wanted to point out is, so we're trying to get you excited about coming and do business in Puerto Rico. This is a great project. Hopefully this project excites you to get started if you're not already doing business here. But we also want you to consider other projects in the future. So we've listed some of those projects, and I'm not going to go through each one, but this will be available. So we have projects of 12 billion, 10 billion, a billion, 200 million. Other projects in the amount of 156 million and so on. So there are lots of projects coming up in the next 5 to 10 years in Puerto Rico. And so we're hoping that this is the catalyst for some new firms to get involved in Puerto Rico and also do business in the future. So if you want to, we'll have links to these projects that you can access, so you can find out more information about these specific ones. But we want you to know that there's more going on in Puerto Rico than just this project. So questions, we are very interested in your comments and suggestions. We'll definitely consider those for the project. Please submit those at bqnrunway@prpa.pr.gov. Also, if you did not register from the first presentation, please register at that same email. Give us your contact information, and we will send you the information that we've stated, that we've presented here, as well as other documents pertaining to the project. Some of the questions may not be answered directly at this time. We will answer them when they're appropriate, but they might be deferred until the actual RFQ or until a later phase. Also, we want to point out that items presented in this presentation are not binding. The RFQ is under development and will contain the final requirements, along with a sample of the contract requirements. So with that ends our presentation. We'll look real quick at if there's any questions that we want to answer here. You can pop up.
One question is the FAA funding in place?
So we had a question of whether the FAA funding is in place. The FAA funding plan is in place. Not all funds have been allocated because they will be out. They are planned to be allocated from different sources over the next 4 years, 3 to 4 years. So we've already, like we said earlier, the first year's allocation of 24+ million has been allocated, but there is a plan in place that the FAA has approved for financing the entire project.
Could you please take a moment to review the schedule once again?
Okay. So someone would like to review the schedule again, so let's go back to that real quick. So right now, the plan, the key dates are the RFQ will be advertised the middle of April. The plan right now is that would be advertised for about a month and a half. And then the statement of qualifications would be turned in around the 1st of June. And then we would have about a month to review those, to make a short list. for folks that meet the minimum qualifications. And then somewhere around July 1st, we would issue the RFP. And we have about 2.5 months of time for the RFP to be developed and be submitted around the middle of September. And then the submittals will be reviewed, recommended for award, and ultimately hoping to have a contract in place by the 1st of November. So construction would start maybe at the end of this year or 1st of next year.
Is there a sign-in sheet for this meeting?
There is not a specific sign-in sheet for this meeting. If you register, we will send the registration information and attendees for this meeting to everyone. So that will be the sign-in sheet. So please go to BQN Runway at PR.gov. Give us your information, and then we will send back information on everyone who attended both meetings, the one 2 weeks ago and today, as well as answers to any questions that have been submitted that we have answered, or that were answered.
They're also asking if subs need to register, and everybody is encouraged to register because that way you will all be able to connect among each other in case you're looking for prime drawer subs.
Right. And the other thing is, if you register, we will when the RFQ is published, we will send it to you directly. And you will get any other information that we have available that we will send out to everyone. Everyone who registers will get that. So we would appreciate if even if you are a sub, please register. It should only take you a few minutes.
When does the JV need to be in place?
So the JV only needs to be in place when the contract is signed. So you technically do not have to have a JV in place until you are selected for the project. However, in your statement of qualifications, you will have to describe how you plan to joint venture and how that will be set up.
Who is the owner for contracting purposes, PRPA or FAA?
The owner is PRPA. In conjunction, I mean, the FAA again is providing funding, but the owner is Puerto Rico Ports Authority.
Yes, the contract will be between the Puerto Rico Port Authority and the selected design build team. Is the DB 10% goal or contract specific requirement? Is the DB 10% a goal or a contract specific requirement?
Well, the 10% is DB is a goal, as with every FAA project. It is a goal. If you're unable to meet that, you have to show a good faith effort of why you were unable to meet that. So yes, it is a goal and not a requirement.
Will this presentation be shared with the participants?
Yes, the presentation will be shared with everyone who gives us their information and registers. Then we will send the presentation back to everyone.
And it will also be posted in the Puerto Rico Port Authority webpage.
Yes, we will also have it posted in the Puerto Rico webpage, which is, what's the address? You have that on the other side, right? You know what the Puerto Rico webpage is? The Ports Authority webpage?
Yes.
PRPA.pr.gov.
Okay, so it'll also be posted on that website.
Being design build, is the selection lowest price based on shortlisted firms, or is there a different analysis of bids anticipated?
So we're still analyzing the final details for the selection. So we cannot answer that question at the moment.
Are any companies working currently with PRPA precluded from participating in this RFP?
At this time, we are not aware of any firms, but we have had requests from a couple firms, and we're verifying that with the FAA to make sure there's no conflicts. But at this time, we don't have any specific firms that we've conflicted out. But we will send responses to questions of the firms that have asked that, so that everyone will know if there's a firm that's conflicted out.
Where do you register?
So you register at BQN runway at prpa.pr.gov.
How many contractors are you expecting for FAA approval to move forward?
As many as possible. We don't have a requirement. I mean, obviously, we want to have as much interest and competition as possible, but we don't have a specific requirement for a number of firms.
And DBEs that are not on island and in the continental United States participate?
So yes, the DBE requirement is the FAA requirement, so that anyone who is registered as a DBE firm, whether it's in the continental US or in Puerto Rico, are able to participate. So your DBE does not necessarily have to be local participation. It can be a DBE firm that's registered in the continental US.
Being outside of the AOA, do you anticipate security issues? Need for 24-hour security for equipment materials, or will the complete area be fenced in outside of the AOA?
Yeah, so the plan right now is that area, it would end up being completely fenced in because the current airport property is completely fenced. We will basically now be providing another fence that offsets the safety area for the current runway. So that area should be completely fenced in, but it will be the responsibility of the design build team, the contractor, to provide whatever level of security that you need. Because the fencing and all that stuff will be part of your contract.
Could you please elaborate why the solicitation was retracted last year?
That's really irrelevant to this project now, so we won't answer that right now.
Please repeat or send an email. Please repeat the email where they need to register.
Okay. You want to enter it in the?
I'm gonna type in with the email.
So we're going to enter the email address into the chat box, but it is BQN runway at prpa.pr.gov.
There, it's already in the chat box for those of you who did not have it. Do you have an anticipated design and construction schedule that you desire to meet?
We do not currently have a schedule. We will have some guidelines for a schedule in our, once you get to the RFP, to the proposal stage. But we want to be able to leave that as flexible as possible so that the contractor can provide their insight and their efficiencies, that they can build those into their contract.
Do you anticipate all aggregate materials that are needed and meet FAA specs are available on island?
Right now, we do believe there are sufficient materials on island that meet FAA specifications.
There may be some, if there is asphalt work, there may be some binders that will have to come from the continental United States. Has the area for batch plant been identified? Describe permitting process requirements and responsible entities.
So there is plenty of room for a batch plant. There's a lot of space available on the south of the airport. So we will not identify a specific area. It will be the responsibility of the contractor along with the engineering firm that's part of the team to analyze where that batch plant can go with regards to Part 77 surfaces and other restrictions that would be required for the existing runway. And also it will be the responsibility of the contractor or the design build team to establish the requirements for permitting for the batch plant.
Do you have an anticipated design and construction schedule that you desire to meet?
Yeah, we already talked
Yeah,
about that.
that's the last one I have.
Okay. So it looks like we don't see any more questions. Again, if you come up with a question or comments or suggestions, please send those to the BQN runway at prpa.pr.gov. We thank you for your participation today. We hope that that this project is appealing to a lot of you. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. And we hope to see you in the future. Thank you.
Mensajes de voz 7, 8.